Hi everybody, Neil here. So in this short little video, I'm going to explain how to write a concept paragraph. So remember, we're going to have two more tests, and when we have the tests, it's going to be on the test to write a concept paragraph, and I'm going to go over the structure. So of course you could watch this again and again and try to have that help you out. So remember, a concept paragraph has four components to it, and the first component is simply to express the idea. Now this idea can come from any of the articles that are on the test, and it doesn't have to be a main idea of the article, it just has to be a concept that the article describes that is true sometimes in other places. So that's why I often say that a good way to begin a concept sentence that begins the concept paragraph is to begin with saying sometimes or often, because that's a good way to lead into it. So you just flat out express the concept. So we recently in class read Naked and Afraid, and this just recently comes to mind. So one of the ideas in that article that we talked about was that Rousseau is a person who had wise words to say about raising children, but he was a bad father himself. So a concept that a person could write is sometimes a person can do worthwhile art or express themselves very well. I'm sorry, I'm messing that up. I'm going to try again. Sometimes a person has very worthwhile things to say about something while is terrible at doing it him or herself, period. So that's an idea that is sometimes true. We see that in different ways where someone can be a very good doctor, but it's a terrible patient at doing things. Someone could give a good, in this case, like good parenting advice, but being a terrible parent. Someone could be a good plumber who can fix your pipes and whatnot, but then doesn't take care of his own, something like that. So the point is that the concept sentence just asserts the concept. So I'm just going to repeat what I just said. Sometimes a person can have worthwhile things to say about a subject, but doesn't follow that advice. It's just another way of saying the same thing. So then the second part of the concept is, where did this come from? So then you would just say, in your second sentence, we see this idea in Naked and Afraid, where the author talks about how Rousseau had all these wonderful things or worthwhile things to say about parenting, but he was a terrible parent himself. So that way we have the first sentence which states the concept, doesn't talk about the article, just asserts the concept, and then the second sentence where it came from and what part of the article. Now the third part, and this is the key, is showing how that concept in the first part can be applied in other areas. So if we're sticking with this concept is that, again, I'm repeating I think for the third time, that sometimes a person can give worthwhile insights into something, but then not follow those insights. So now, in the third part, you have to give an example from outside the article. So you might want to talk about how someone can give, so you say, for example, I can relate to this because my good friend is very good at giving advice on how to study and be prepared for school, but when it comes time for her to do her work, she always waits till the last minute and doesn't follow any of that advice, period. Okay, so I just made the comparison, in the concept, where we were talking about Rousseau giving parenting advice, and now the same thing is happening where you know this person in your personal life who gives good advice on how to study and how to prepare for tests or how to get essays done in a timely and efficient manner. But when it comes time to doing the work herself, she's a complete, screw up, waits till the last minute and stuff. And that's true and that's real. So that you could talk about that with studying. You could talk about that with someone who could give very good advice on. Another way of saying is, I can relate to this because I have a friend or someone I know who's very good at giving financial advice on how to save money and how to clip coupons and how to save and how to budget. But with his own money, he's a disaster. He gambles and he spends money recklessly and doesn't think about it. And that, again, it's a very interesting concept that someone could tell others very smart things, but when it comes to their own, in this case, finances, they just make a mess of the situation. So again, for this concept paragraph, we're comparing how Rousseau gives good parenting advice and doesn't follow it himself. And I gave an example of someone who can give good studying advice but doesn't follow it herself. And then another example of someone who can give good financial advice, but he doesn't follow it himself. And for the third part, you only have to give one outside example. And then for the fourth part, you just sum it up. You have like a conclusion. It is interesting that people can be so wise about something in the abstract, and yet despite having that knowledge, they can't take it for themselves. Period. And that sums it up. So that's the essence of a concept paragraph, and I hope that this little video helps you to do that, because again, we're going to have to do that at least twice, one on each of the two following tests. Thank you very much.